Welcome back to the pursuit of progress. Today, we're going to talk about the power of your inner circle. For most of us, the people in our lives are either lifting us up or pulling us down. And sometimes we don't even realize the impact that they have. Think about it. If you're the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, are those people helping you grow or holding you back? Today on the pursuit of progress, we're diving into the powerful concept of anchors and propellers. We'll explore how to identify which people push you forward, which weigh you down, and how to set boundaries, even with those closest to you. If you've ever wondered how your relationships might be shaping your future, this episode is for you. How are you doing?
How are you doing?
How are you doing?
Well, for people that don't know my voice, my name is Adam, co-host of the Pursuit of Progress podcast here with Benjamin Adams. And yeah, guys, this is an episode that I wanted to kind of prepare for you today about this concept of anchors and propellers. And this is something that I recently heard on a different podcast, and I had never heard that kind of concept, these words used before for these two types of people that can either weigh you down or lift you up. And, we're going to start off just with talking through, what an anchor is and what a propeller is. But then there's basically just 4 different parts of this, 4 different examples of just some suggestions and I think some really good strategies to really focus your personal expectations on who you're surrounding yourself closest with and making sure that those people are propellers and not anchors. So then we'll just, before we jump into part number 1 about the Jim Rohn 5 people concept that I know you're really passionate about with Jim Rohn, guys, just so you understand again what an anchor is and what a propeller is. So an anchor is just any person that weighs you down, obviously. It's somebody that, kind of discourages your growth, drains your energy. Maybe they're not doing too good in their own lives and they're trying to kind of pull you down with them. They're an anchor. A propeller, on the other hand, is people who lift you up, people that inspire you, people that push you toward your goals. These are the people that are in your corner and supportive regardless of what you're working on, just people that have faith and believe in you and just are, again, people that are lifting you up. So those are the differences between anchors and propellers that we're going to talk about today. And we're just really, again, just going to emphasize why it's so important to be intentional about who you're surrounding yourself with in these relationships. So Ben, jumping right into part number 1, the 5 people concept, tell us a little bit about Jim Rohn and how this came about.
Yeah, well, Jim Rohn is one of the early motivational speakers, and there's a lot of old footage of him that circulates YouTube, Instagram, very popular in the 70s and 80s. And he believed that your mindset, habits, and success are heavily influenced by the 5 people that you interact with the most. And you really have to think about, sometimes people, they think they don't understand who they're around the most. A lot of times it's going to be family members and then your work family. For anyone that shows up in the office 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, you're going to be spending probably the most time around those individuals at the office. So you want to make sure that you have a very healthy setting. And the reason that this is so important is because these 5 people, the people that you are around the most, act as mirrors, reflecting attitudes, behaviors, and standards back at you.
Yeah. So just understanding, I guess, just so everybody understands what we're talking about there, they're a mirror in the sense of, whatever they're projecting out, their attitudes, their standards, all that stuff, it's going to, weigh on you. It's going to, man, what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to rub off on you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just really understanding that, these other people's lifestyles, just their type of decisions they're making, those are all going to, at some level, affect yours as well. So just, an example of this 5-person concept is, also there's a statistic out there about if you found 5 people that were the closest to you and you got an honest answer from each of them on what their annual average, how much money they made in the course of a year. You got that exact number from all 5 of the people closest to you.
Yeah.
You took that number, that total number, and divided it by 5, basically found the average of those 5 people. your personal annual amount of money that you've made in the year, they've said is within like 10 or 20% almost all the time. It's like some crazy statistic in this big study they did. So just really understanding again that you really are the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Yeah, and I've known that for a while, and that's something that I've valued and I've believed in my entire life. When I got into the mortgage banking world as an originator back in 2017, I was coming from the underwriting world, and I wanted to associate myself with other loan officers that were extremely successful. So as I was going through the interview process of looking at what bank I should go work for and who I should work with, I went and found the 2 most successful loan originators in the entire state of Colorado at that time. And they were literally doing hundreds of millions of dollars in loan production. They agreed to hire me, and I sat my desk right outside one of their offices just so I could listen to the conversations and be in close proximity to both of them to see how they interacted, how they communicated, how they behaved, believing that by being in close proximity, their success would naturally just drip onto me. And it did. They were incredible mentors for me for 8 years. And I'm a much better loan officer because of that. And it also had a tremendous impact on my income as well.
Yeah, I remember visiting you at one of the North Point Bank offices that you're in. I think maybe I was the only one, but just, yeah, where your desk was just right outside those 2. And I remember that very clearly. So that was a very an intentional, but also very smart strategy you made. So good on you on that one. Just kind of closing out this first part of this, guys, I wanted just to give you an actionable tip. So on this idea of surrounding yourself with these 5 people, and that can either be an anchor or a propeller, these 5 people hopefully are all going to be propellers for you, but just take an inventory, take stock of who these 5 are in your life right now today. And just think to yourself 2 questions. Are they people that are pushing me forward, or are they holding me back? So are they an anchor or are they a propeller? And then number 2, do they inspire me or do they drain me? Are they giving me additional energy, or are they just sucking the energy out of me? You can really just think through the 5 people and be honest. And even if some of these 5 people might be your parents or your siblings, or, maybe your spouse, your boyfriend, girlfriend, it can be somebody close to you, and they might be an anchor at the moment. And it's okay. It's just important to be honest when you're doing this. And it's just about, figuring this out. And, at the end of the day, those people can still be in your life. It just might not be the right person to surround yourself with in certain settings, depending on what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve.
That's absolutely right. And setting the boundaries, as you mentioned, that's where it's so important to have those strong boundaries.
So jumping into the second part of our first part of this series here. So I want us to talk about just the anchors and propellers and just dive a little bit deeper into some of the characteristics. So, this is a pretty generic word that we're using, and obviously it's pretty simple on a high level. As far as a propeller lifts you up just like a plane propeller does, an anchor pulls you down just like a anchor on a boat does. So lifts you up, drags you down. But just to maybe put some different verbiage on these, just to maybe help you think through who these people might be for you. So I'll do the characteristics of anchors, and then Ben, I'll let you do the propellers. So for anchors, a negative mindset or just constantly complaining, somebody that just has a lack of ambition, maybe resistant to change, maybe somebody that has some levels of jealousy, or maybe even some passive aggressiveness when you are having success. And then, again, talking about how some of these anchors might be people within your family, and just acknowledging how, this is okay. It might be complicated and they can still be in your lives, but just understanding how to manage, how they're affecting your mindset when it comes to certain areas of your life. Ben,
It's another characteristic of anchors that I've observed.
Sure.
Really negative body language.
Oh, that's a good one.
Very, and have you ever been around someone where without even saying a word, They will just be in your, be sitting in your sphere and just suck all the energy out of you just by their body language.
Yep.
And that's how I always know if I'm dealing with an anchor or a propeller is how do I feel being around this, this individual? Is this person lifting me up? Are they giving me energy or are they taking the energy away from me? Another term that I have for anchors and that I heard about 10 years ago is energy vampire, where they
Yep.
suck the energy right out of you.
Yeah, I used to work with Blade actually, and it was crazy, man. Every day he would just suck every little drop of blood out of me.
Well, that's why Chris Christopherson was so important to Blade, because he was Blade's propeller.
He will. Oh my God, that's
And so
awesome.
here are some characteristics of propellers. So remember, these are the opposite of anchors. Propellers are going to encourage your dreams and celebrate your wins. They're going to challenge you to grow. They're going to help hold you accountable. They're also going to offer constructive criticism and helpful advice. Do you have any propellers that come to mind in your life?
Yeah, I put you in that category. Just to kind of add on to a couple other ones, just as far as the characteristics go, thinking about people that are just doing things totally out of their own goodwill and not looking for anything in return. Like people
Yeah.
that are, really giving you good advice, maybe helping you with whatever it is that you're trying to achieve and not expecting anything in return. I think those are always really good people to identify as strong propellers because they're in it for the right reason and they're genuine and authentic. And then also I just wanted to just close out this point just on both of these is, I know people that have a little bit of characteristics on both propeller and anchor. And, you might be finding the same as we went through these with some of the people you guys are maybe thinking of as people that are in your five. And just understanding that's okay. It's just really though, looking at it just really from a bigger picture of just, are they giving or are they taking, are they lifting you up more or are they sinking the ship? So just kind of realize that, some people might have a little bit of both of these.
Yeah. And the way that I've always thought about that is I want to be around people that are headed in the same direction that I am. It doesn't mean that we're always going to be on the same path 100%, but we're headed in the same direction, meaning that we have a vision for our life. We have goals. We have things that we want to accomplish. A lot of times we're going to have consistent values. If someone is living a certain way, like for example, I don't drink alcohol anymore. Am I going to be going like hang out with a bunch of people that drink alcohol and like the party on the weekends? Well, if I was doing that, that would be a huge mistake because we're not headed in the same direction. And it doesn't mean that we're all moving at the same speed. We can be moving at different speeds as well. But you want to be hanging out with people that have the same standards, similar standards, same values, same goals, and they have a vision and a plan for their life.
Yeah, and talking about how some people have characteristics of both. I think of just parents a lot of the time in that case where, like I'll just use my dad as an example. He's one of the smartest people I know, but he's a little bit resistant to change maybe in certain regards as far as just, how he knows the world works when it comes to business and success is a lot different than today. I mean, he's very supportive of everything I do, but like YouTube, the fact that like I'm, making money through a platform like YouTube, that would be something that he would initially probably have some resistance to and just, at least some hesitance to understand and really support fully. So you might have people like that could still very well be one of your five. And that would be an example of me for mine. My dad is definitely my five, but they have maybe a characteristic or two that kind of is in the gray area or not totally all under the characteristics of propellers.
Very well said. And you articulated that great because, it's so important to think about where, in your dad, for example, he has your best interests in mind. He believes in you, he supports you. And even though he may not understand that platform, he's the foundation that he's giving you that initial advice from is from a place of love and respect and out of your welfare. I was reading an article recently and it was talking about how most friends truly cannot support other friends in their group in a real genuine and authentic way. And usually when they see someone in their friend group really achieving at a high level or outperforming them, a lot of times there's some jealousy that can be, that can start some jealousy. And so it just got me thinking, to really have someone in your corner that really does want the best for you and wants you to go be your best and take it to that next level in a very genuine and authentic way is something that is very, very important. And I put you in that category. And, you've been so supportive of me and the things that I'm trying to do. And, you've mentored me in a lot of different ways. So very, very thankful and appreciative of the impact that you've had in my life.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, same here, man. I know you love Jim Rohn. I love Zig Ziglar. So I'll close out this one just with a quote from Zig. Surround yourself with those who see greatness within you, even when you don't see it in yourself.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite Zig quotes, and can be applied to a lot of areas of life, not just business and pursuing progress, but just, it's just a great quote.
Yeah, well, it's time to hear from our sponsors here. So I'm going to go ahead and give our sponsors the floor. Are you looking for a real estate team that goes beyond closing deals? At Adams Sells Denver, we're here to guide buyers, sellers, and investors with strategies tailored just for you. Visit adamsellsdenver.com for free resources or call 970-500-0252 to get started today.
Thank you so much to our sponsors. As always, we couldn't do the show without you guys, so thank you. And now going into part 2 of our session today, talking all about part 2 of just really understanding again who you surround yourself with and the value that really can have on your pursuit of progress. So number 3 is all about balancing relationships. So just really understanding, again, talking about like family as an example, the guilt of limiting time with somebody that might be an anchor, and just, really focusing again on that circle that's closest to you being nothing but propellers.
Yeah, I was watching a video last night of Jesse Itzler, and he was explaining his strategy and how he looks at relationship and time. And so what he does is he always talks about living in the present, but then looking at the future in 5-year blocks down the road. So where are we at today? Where are we going to be at in 5 years? And so the example that he was giving was very similar to mine. He's like, one of my kids is in high school right now. 5 years from now, they will not be in the home. And so what that means is that my time with them is very limited. And when you look ahead 5 years, it helps you put into perspective what's going to be even more important in the present today. And so it allows you to place a higher degree of emphasis on those relationships. An example that I'll use personally, I was debating this year if I should put Christmas lights up or not. And initially I wasn't going to, but then I just thought about that. What about 5 years from now? My kids aren't even going to be here. They're not even going to care if I do it. So I have 4 Christmases left while they're in high school, while I still live at the house, to do this. I only have 4. Got 4 Christmases left to put up Christmas lights. And so after looking at it in that lens, I was like, you know what? This is something I have to do. So that's what I'm going to be doing this weekend, putting Christmas lights up.
Hopefully making your kids do it with you to take advantage of only having 4 years left.
Hey, that's another great perspective.
I think, a couple practical tips for this one, you guys, just to really just make sure you're reframing kind of your thought behind this one. First off, just really setting those clear boundaries, being very clear about what you can and cannot do. What I mean by this is like, Ben used the example of, surrounding himself with people that are big partiers and drinking alcohol a bunch, just setting some boundaries and just following those to just be clear about, you're surrounding yourself again with the right people.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a specific alcohol, but that was just the example. Number 2, just limiting exposure. So just really scheduling your time intentionally, especially when you do have people in your life that are draining your relationship or, are people that are draining. If you have a lot of time scheduled and you're not just kind of running through your day on a free flow type style. If you're very structured with your day, that gives you the ability to very legitimately just not be able to spend as much time with those people and limit the exposure. And then third, but definitely not least, just seeking some common ground. If you are around some of these people, just really being intentional about who you're pulling, what info, what guidance, what mentorship are you pulling from your different people in your life, and just focusing on different topics and activities around the people that might be a little bit more of an anchor. Make sure you're just talking and just doing things with them that are going to limit that negativity and guard you from getting pulled down.
Mm. Yeah, and all of this, what you just described with these 3 practical tips is a really an emphasis on peace.
Yeah.
This might be difficult for someone if they've never done it, learning how to set boundaries and limiting your exposure with those that don't share the same values, and seeking common ground. As I've gotten older, I have learned to value my peace so much more. When I was younger, I used to always try and say yes to everything. And I was probably a little bit of a people pleaser to a degree. I wanted to be well liked. I did care about the opinion of others. And when you're constantly saying yes to everything, you're really saying no to yourself. And one of my favorite investing quotes is what Warren Buffett said. He says, power is in no, not yes. He talks about how he says no to about 98% of the deals that come across his desk. And he also applies that in his personal life as well. Can I meet with you? No, you can't. Why? And so, but when you do those things and you learn how to develop those skills, you're going to place a higher emphasis on your personal peace. And that, to me, if I don't have peace in my life, I don't care what else I have. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. All right, so let's talk about the last but not least, part 4 of this talk today. Just really understanding again how to build this circle of propellers. So there's obviously some different ways to just be a little bit more mindful about attracting and connecting with people in your lives that again are bringing you up and are propellers. One example of this would be to seek mentorship. I think this is something that is talked a lot about, but a lot of people maybe just it goes in one ear out the other and don't really take any action on being the ones to actually actively pursue mentors. But I think mentorship is something that can really help bring maybe that 5th person into your circle to kind of, again, elevate the people around you and just really have higher kind of level of expectations on what you're doing in life and just, again, who you're surrounding yourself with. Just really focusing on joining communities that are aligned with your goals. Mastermind groups, maybe a networking event that you're going to monthly, even maybe a group at your church, just whatever goals and whatever is you're most passionate about, just finding more structured communities that align with some of those. And then the third one that I think is the biggest one that I'd love to just chat a little bit more in depth about is offering value in return. Great relationships are reciprocal. So talking
Yeah.
about like achieving or acquiring a mentor, just really finding that mentor that can give you a lot of life advice, share with you a lot of the mistakes they've made so you don't make the same. Well, you might be thinking, well, what am I going to be able to provide them? Like, why am I in there? Like, why they're coming into my circle. I'm not going into theirs. So like, why would they want to do that? What are you, you know, what can you value? What value can you provide them in return? And I would just say that, there's definitely ways that don't have to be financially based, even skill based. If you're just genuinely appreciative of that person, and I think the biggest, even larger piece of this is when they are giving you advice, don't let that advice just go in one ear out the other. You need to prove to them that you are valuing their time by taking action and actually showing them that you are taking their advice and serious about this. I have some other mentors currently that were venting about this the other day, where it's just so common for, people to reach out to them for advice. They'll tell them advice that the people already knew about. They're just, just hearing it and not doing anything with it. And over time, that just really drains people that are providing mentorship. And
Yeah.
don't be one of those people. Just really be intentional about the time you're with them and take action.
My brother has talked about that because he has done some real estate mentoring to others in the Tulsa, Oklahoma market. And they would come to him and they would say, what advice do you have where I can start to build my real estate career and start my investing journey? And he would say, well, start by reading this book. And he would give them a specific book. It was a Gary Keller book, the real estate investor, millionaire real estate investor. And out of all of the times he gave someone the book, there was only like one or two people that actually came back and said that they read it. And he would follow up when he'd see him. He'd say, how was the book that I recommended? Most of the time, it was always, the response was, oh, I started, but I haven't got a chance to finish it. I forgot to read it. So you're asking me for advice and I'm giving advice. I'm telling you what to do. And then you're just not following through at all. So what are you're just not serious is what it comes down to. You're just not serious about wanting to better yourself. This was a question that I had for you. And propellers, and this is kind of an analogy, but propellers hang together. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, depending on what kind of plane you're in. If you only have one propeller and not two on a dual prop plane, you're going to have some problems.
But think of those big wind propellers that you see in certain areas. Do you ever just see one of those by themselves?
No, not very often.
No, they're always in groups or batches. If you see one, there's likely going to be 4 or 5, maybe dozens right there, because propellers hang together.
Propellers stick together. Yeah, that's good. I want to be like the Cracker Barrel where you just have propellers everywhere on the front porch, misters. I think that could be the next phase of somebody else you're adding into your circle is the misters. You got propellers, you got anchors, you got misters.
Yeah.
Well, guys, hope you guys some value from this. I know this one was a little bit different. Just wanted to kind of share that topic and that concept with you on anchors and propellers. If you have any, just insights on how this maybe has already been, something you've been working on, or maybe you've had some success with improving your 5 people closest to you and helping by doing so, helping you grow in whatever area of life you're pursuing. We'd love to hear about it. So share with us on social if that might be the case. And Ben, I'll let you close this one out.
All right. Well, that is it for today's episode on the Pursuit of Progress podcast. The people around you can be your greatest advantage or your biggest obstacle. By identifying the anchors and propellers in your life and being intentional with your time, you can create an environment that fuels your growth. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who might need it or needs a little encouragement to rethink their inner circle. And until next time, keep choosing the right people, keep setting the right boundaries, and as always, keep pursuing progress. We'll see you guys next week.
See you guys.